You know when you take a training course and it's just awesome? Like it actually clicks, it makes sense, and you walk away feeling like you really learned something? Well, that kind of thing almost never happens by accident. It's engineered. And today, we're going to deconstruct the blueprint behind those great learning experiences to see exactly how they're built.
Right, so that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It can totally feel like magic when it works, but there's a really deliberate, thoughtful discipline at work behind the scenes, and we're about to pull back the curtain on how it's done.
And the answer has a name: instructional design. This is the formal term for, well, the architecture of learning. It's all about taking what we know about how the human brain actually works and using that science to build training that doesn't just inform people, it actually transforms them.
So let's dig into this idea of a blueprint. At its heart, instructional design is the master plan that makes sure any training project is sound, functional, and most importantly, truly built for the people who are going to use it.
And you can break down this entire blueprint into two fundamental parts. You've got the physics that makes the whole structure stand up, and then you've got the step-by-step instructions for actually building it. In our world, we call these theory and process.
All right, let's break that down. Theory versus process. Think of it this way. Theory is the why. It's the science behind how our brains learn things. And process is the how, the practical, hands-on framework we use to build the actual learning experience.
So first up, let's talk about theory. This is the science part. It's all about understanding these deep principles, like, for example, why adults learn so differently from kids, or how you can present information without totally overwhelming someone's brain. This knowledge is the foundation for every single design decision we make.
And these are some of the heavy hitters we're talking about. You've got theories from people like Malcolm Knowles, who figured out that adults need to know why they're learning something, or John Sweller's cognitive load theory, which is all about not dumping too much information on someone at once. This is the science that makes learning stick.
Okay, so that's the why. Now for the how. On the other side of the coin is the process. If theory is the science, then process is the engineering. It's the nitty-gritty, step-by-step work of analyzing what people need, storyboarding the content, and actually developing the final product.
And look, to keep all that complex work organized, designers don't just wing it. They use established models, and the two most common ones you'll hear about are ADDIE and SAM. These aren't theories themselves. They are repeatable, reliable frameworks for putting all that theory into practice in the real world.
So let's kick things off with the classic, the OG blueprint for instructional design, the ADDIE model. I mean, this has been a cornerstone of the field for decades, and for a very good reason.
And this image explains its core idea perfectly. ADDIE is famously known as a waterfall model. Why? Because you complete each step in order before moving on to the next one. It's a very linear, very structured flow, moving from one distinct phase down to the next, just like, a waterfall.
The name itself, ADDIE, is an acronym that actually spells out the path for you. First, you analyze the needs. Then you design the solution. Next, you develop the materials, you implement the training, and finally, you evaluate the results to see how it went. Each phase has its own clear purpose before you can proceed.
Okay, so that's the classic. But now, let's check out a totally different kind of blueprint, one that's less of a straight line and more of a loop. This is the SAM model, the Agile Alternative. But, what happens when the path forward isn't so clear? When projects get really complex, or the scope might change, and you need to be able to adapt on the fly. That rigid waterfall approach of ADDIE isn't always the best tool for the job. And that's exactly the problem the SAM model was created to solve.
And wow, this comparison just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got ADDIE's straight, predictable path. And on the right, you see SAM's continuous loop. Instead of finishing one whole stage completely, SAM is all about building, testing, and refining things in these really rapid cycles.
So SAM, it stands for Successive Approximation Model. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but that key word is successive. The idea is you create a rough version, you test it, you get feedback, and then you use that feedback to build a slightly better version. And you just keep repeating that loop until you've successfully approximated the best possible solution.
So how does it work? Well, it usually kicks off with this big collaborative brainstorming jam session called a savvy start. From there, it's all about making prototypes quickly, even if they're super rough, and constantly getting feedback on them. So instead of one big evaluation at the very end, feedback is built into every single step as you move through what they call alpha, beta, and gold versions.
Okay, so we've got ADDIE, the classic waterfall, and we've got SAM, the agile loop, which leads to the most practical question of all. which one should you actually use? And this is so important. It's not a competition. It's not about which one is better. They're just two different paths to get to the same destination, which is an effective, awesome learning experience. The right path really just depends on the project, the team, and the situation you're in.
So let's get practical. Here's a great little cheat sheet for when to use each one. ADD is often your best friend when you're new to this whole thing or when your project has a really fixed scope and a hard deadline. That structure gives you a safety net. SAM, on the other hand, really shines when you're more experienced, when the project has room to breathe and evolve, and when you need to innovate and test ideas really fast.
But honestly, the most important thing to remember is this. These models are not rigid, unbreakable laws. They're just tools. They're guides. If you're using ADDIE and you realize during the implement phase that you need to go back and fix something in the design phase, then do it. The whole point is to move the project forward in the smartest way possible.
Yeah, and I love this quote because it just nails it. It's not about the order of the steps. It's about what steps you take. The model gives you a map, sure, but you're the one driving. What really truly matters isn't just blindly following the order, but making sure you're taking the right actions. Analyzing, designing, evaluating to get to your goal. So the next time you've got to build something, a presentation, a workshop, a course, anything, think about your blueprint. Are you building a straightforward structure that needs that clear waterfall plan? Or are you creating something new and exciting that calls for a more agile, iterative loop? Choosing the right blueprint, well, that's the first real step to building something great.